Hey everyone.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the late start. Just things happening. How is everyone this evening? We're here. We are at the end of it. It is happening. How do we all feel about it?
How much of you think, or how much of this do you think is going to be preaching?
Only one way to find out.
Gonna take Dracula to church? Literally.
Melanie is all for it.
Oh no. Get it out now.
I mean, a little bit better, but still not great. You know. Got a good sleep last night, but, you know. It's all good. It happens. Everybody gets a cold every once in a while. Um, World Series on TV, BIBLIOBIBULI on my laptop. Sounds like a good time to me.
Who's winning? I'm going to assume the Yankees.
I think they were getting the floor mopped with them by whoever the other team is.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Well, the first 3 games, I guess they lost. But now they're, like, coming back. I don't know.
Yeah. It's tied.
I haven't paid much attention this year, but I have a coworker who's a big-time Yankees fan. And he has been struggling.
I mean, when you live in New York, everyone's a Yankees fan.
Or a Mets fan.
That's true.
You got
Mets
those
is another big one.
weird outliers.
It's really that. It's Yankees or Mets.
Mm-hmm.
You never see anyone else?
5-5. Ooh.
High scoring game, too. All right.
We can just go ahead and start if everyone is ready.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's do it, guys. Last chapter. Let us sink our teeth into it. I can also talk more closely to the mic if that also helps. Melanie wants the volume turned up a little bit. We'll see how that goes. Ha ha ha. Very funny. That's a good one. Yeah, well, so far day 2, so we'll see what happens. Alrighty, here we go. Last chapter, everybody. Chapter 27. Mina Harker's Journal. 1st November. All day long we have travelled and at a good speed. The horses seem to know that they are being kindly treated, for they go willingly with their full stage at best speed. We have now had so many changes and find the same things so constantly that we are encouraged to think that the journey will be an easy one. Dr. Van Helsing is laconic. He tells the farmers that he is hurrying for bistris, and pays them well to make the exchange of horses. We get hot soup or coffee or tea, and off we go. It is a lovely country, full of beauties of all imaginable kinds, and the people are brave and strong and simple and seem full of nice qualities. They are very, very superstitious. In the first house where we stopped, when the woman who served us saw the scar on my forehead, She crossed herself and put out 2 fingers toward me to keep off the evil eye. I believe they went to the trouble of putting an extra amount of garlic in our food, and I can't abide garlic. Ever since then I have taken care not to take off my hat or veil, and so have escaped their suspicions. We are travelling fast, and as we have no driver with us to carry tales, we go ahead of scandal. But I dare say that fear of the evil eye will follow hard behind us all the way. The professor seems tireless. All day he would not take any rest, though he made me sleep for a long spell. At sunset time he hypnotized me, and he says that I answered as usual, darkness, lapping water, and creaking wood, so our enemy is still on the river. I am afraid to think of Jonathan, but somehow I have now no fear for him, or for myself. I write this whilst we wait in a farmhouse for the horses to be got ready. Dr. Van Helsing is sleeping. Poor dear, he looks very tired and old and grey, but his mouth is set as firmly as a conqueror's. Even in his sleep he is instinct with resolution. When we have well started, I must make him rest whilst I drive. I shall tell him that we have days before us, and we must not break down when most of all his strength will be needed. All is ready. We are off shortly. 2nd of November, morning. I was successful, and we took turns driving all night. Now the day is on us, bright though cold. There is a strange heaviness in the air. I say heaviness for want of a better word. I mean that it oppresses us both. It is very cold, and only our warm furs keep us comfortable. At dawn Van Helsing hypnotized me. He says I answered darkness, creaking wood, and roaring water, so the river is changing as they ascend. I hope that my darling will not run any chance of danger, more than need be, but we are in God's hands. 2nd of November, night. All day long driving. The country gets wilder as we go, and the great spurs of the Carpathians, which at Vericetti seemed so far from us and so low in the horizon, now seem to gather round us and tower in front. We both seem in good spirits. I think we make an effort each to cheer the other, and in doing so we cheer ourselves. Dr. Van Helsing says that by morning we shall reach the Borgo Pass. The houses are very few here now, and the professor says that the last horse we got will have to go on with us, as we may not be able to change. He got 2 in addition to the 2 we changed, so that now we have a rude 4 in hand. The dear horses are patient and good, and they give us no trouble. We are not worried with other travellers, so even I can drive. We shall get to the pass in daylight. We do not want to arrive before. So we take it easy and have each a long rest in turn. Oh, what will tomorrow bring to us? We go to seek the place where my poor darling suffered so much. God grant that we may be guided aright, and that he will deign to watch over my husband and those dear to us both, and who are in such deadly peril. As for me, I am not worthy in his sight. Alas, I am unclean to his eyes, and shall be until he may deign to let me stand forth in his sight as one of those who have not incurred his wrath. Memorandum by Abraham Van Helsing. 4th November. This to my old and true friend, John Seward, M.D., of Purfleet, London, in case I may not see him. It may explain. It is morning, and I write by a fire which all the night I have kept alive, Madam Mina aiding me. It is cold, so cold that the heavy grey sky is full of snow, which when it falls will settle for all winter as the ground is hardening to receive it. It seems to have affected Madam Mina. She has been so heavy of head all day that she was not like herself. She sleeps and sleeps and sleeps. She who is usual so alert, have done literally nothing all the day. She even have lost her appetite. She make no entry into her little diary, she who writes so faithful at every pause. Something whisper to me that all is not well. However, tonight she is more vif. Her long sleep all day have refreshed and restore her, for now she is all sweet and bright as ever. At sunset I try to hypnotize her, but alas, with no effect. The power has grown less and less with each day, and tonight it failed me altogether. Well, God's will be done, whatever it may be, and with whoever it may lead. Now to the historical, for as Madam Mina write not in her stenography, I must in my cumbrous old fashion, so that each day of us may not go unrecorded. We got to the Borgo Pass just after sunrise yesterday morning. When I saw the signs of the dawn, I got ready for the hypnotism. We stopped our carriage and got down so that there might be no disturbance. I made a couch with furs, and Madam Mina, lying down, yielded herself as usual, but more slow and more short-timed than ever, to the hypnotic sleep. As before came the answer. Darkness and the swirling of water. Then she woke, bright and radiant, and we got on our way, and soon reached the pass. At this time and place she became all on fire with zeal. Some new guiding power might be in her manifested, for she point to a road and say, "This is the way." "How know you it?" I ask. "Of course I know it," she answer, and with a pause add, "Have not my Jonathan travelled it and wrote of his travel?" At first I think somewhat strange, but soon I see that there be only one such by-road. It is used but little and very different from the coach road from the Bukovina to Beat Streets, which is more wide and hard and of more use. So we came down this road, when we met other ways. Not always were we sure there were roads at all, for they may be neglect and light snow have fallen. The horses know, and they only. I give rein to them, and so they go on so patient. By and by we find all the things which Jonathan have noted in that wonderful diary of him. Then we go on for long, long hours and hours. At first I tell Madam Nina to sleep. She try and she succeed. She sleep all the time. Till at the last I feel myself too suspicious grow and attempt to wake her. But she sleep on, and I may not wake her though I try. I do not wish to try too hard, lest I harm her, for I know that she have suffered much, and sleep at times be all in all to her. I think I drowse myself, for all of a sudden I feel guilt, as though I have done something. I find myself bolt up, with the reins in hand, and the good horses go along, jog, jog, just as ever. I look down and find Madam Mina still asleep. It is now not far off sunset time, and over the snow the light of the sun flow in big yellow flood, so that we throw great long shadow on where the mountain rise too steep. For we are going up, and all is so wild and rocky, as though it were the end of the world. Then I arouse Madam Mina. This time she wake with not much trouble, and then I try to put her to hypnotic sleep. But she sleep not, being as though I were not. Still I try and try, till at once I find her and myself in the dark. So I look around and find the sun have gone down. Madam Mina laugh, and I turn and look at her. She is now quite awake, and looks so well as I never saw her since that night at Carfax when we first entered the Count's house. I am amazed and not at ease then, but she is so bright and tender and thoughtful for me that I forget all fear. I light a fire, for we have brought supply of wood with us, and she prepare food while I undo the horses and set them, tethered in shelter, to feed. Then when I return to the fire she may have my supper ready. I go to help her, but she smile, and tell me that she have eat already, that she was so hungry that she would not wait. I like it not, and have grave doubts, but I fear to affright her, and so I am silent of it. She help me, and I eat alone, and then we wrap in fur and lie beside the fire, and I tell her to sleep while I watch. But presently I forget all of watching, and when I sudden remember that I watch, I find her lying quiet, but awake, looking at me with so bright eyes. Once, twice more the same occur, and I get much sleep until morning. When I wake, I try to hypnotize her, but alas, though she shut her eyes obedient, she may not sleep. The sun rise up and up and up, and then sleep come to her too late, but so heavy that she will not wake. I have to lift her up and place her sleeping in the carriage when I have harnessed the horses and made all ready. Madam still sleep, and she look in her sleep more healthy and more redder than ever before. And I like it not, and I am afraid. Afraid. I am afraid of all things, even to think but I must go on my way. The stake we play for is life and death, or more than these, and we must not flinch. 5th of November. Morning. Let me be accurate in everything, for though you and I have seen some strange things together, you may at the first think that I, Van Helsing, am mad, that the many horrors and the so long strain on nerves has at the last turned my brain. All yesterday we travelled, ever getting closer to the mountains, and moving into a more and more wild and desert land, There are great frowning precipices and much falling water, and nature seemed to have held sometime her carnival. Madam Mina still sleep, and though I did have hunger and appeased it, I could not waken her, even for food. I began to fear that the fatal spell of the place was upon her, tainted as she is with that vampire baptism. Well, I said to myself, if it be that she sleep all the day, it shall also be that I do not sleep at night. As we travel on the rough road, for a road of an ancient and imperfect kind there was, I held down my head and slept. Again I waked with a sense of guilt and of time past, and found Madam Mina still sleeping, and the sun low down. But all was indeed changed. The frowning mountain seemed further away, and we were near the top of a steep rising hill, on summit of which was such a castle as Jonathan tell of in his diary. I exulted and feared, for now, for good or ill, the end was near. I woke Madam Mina and again tried to hypnotize her, but alas, unavailing till too late. Then ere the great dark came upon us, for even after downsun the heavens reflected the gone sun on the snow, and all was for a time in a great twilight. I took out the horses and fed them in what shelter I could. Then I make a fire, and near it I make Madam Mina, now awake and more charming than ever, sit comfortable amid her rugs. I got ready food, but she would not eat, simply saying that she had not hunger. I did not press her, knowing her unavailingness, but I myself eat, for I must needs now be strong for all. Then, with the fear on me of what might be, I drew a ring so big for her comfort, round where Madam Mina sat, and over the ring I passed some of the wafer, and broke it so fine that all was well guarded. She sat still all the time, so still as one dead, and she grew whiter and even whiter until the snow was not more pale, and no word she said. But when I drew near she clung to me, and I could not know but the poor soul shook from her head to feet with a tremor that was pain to feel. I said to her presently, when she had grown more quiet, "Will you not come over to the fire?" For I wished to make a test of what she could. She rose obedient, but when she had made a step she stopped, and stood as one stricken. "Why not go on?" I asked. She shook her head, and coming back, sat down in her place. Then, looking at me with open eyes, as if one waked from sleep, she said simply, "I cannot," and remained silent. I rejoiced, for I knew that what she could not, none of those that we dreaded could, though there might be danger to her body, yet her soul was safe. Presently the horses began to scream and tore at their tethers till I came to them and quieted them. When they did feel my hands on them, they whinnied low as in joy, and licked at my hands and were quiet for a time. Many times through the night did I come to them, till it arrived at the cold hour when all nature is at lowest, and every time my coming was with quiet of them. In the cold hour the fire began to die, and I was about stepping forth to replenish it, for now the snow came in flying sweeps, and with it a chill mist. Even in the dark there was a light of some kind, as there ever is over snow, and it seemed as though the snow flurries and the wreaths of mist took shape as of women with trailing garments. All was in dead grim silence, only that the horses whinnied and cowered, as if in terror of the worst. I began to fear, horrible fears, but then came to me the sense of safety in that ring wherein I stood. I began, too, to think that my imaginings were of the night and the gloom, and the unrest that I have gone through, and all the terrible anxiety. It was as though my memories of all of Jonathan's horrid experience were befooling me, for the snowflakes and the mist began to wheel and circle around, till I could get as though a shadowy glimpse of those women that would have kissed him. And then the horses cowered lower and lower, and moaned in terror as men do in pain. Even the madness of fright was not to them, so that they could break away. I feared for my dear Madam Mina when these weird figures drew near and circled round. I looked at her, but she sat calm and smiled at me. When I would have stepped to the fire to replenish it, she caught me and held me back, and whispered, like a voice one hears in a dream, so low it was, "No, no, do not go without. Here you are safe." I turned to her, and looking in her eyes, said, "But you, it is for you that I fear." Whereat she laughed, a laugh low and unreal, and said, "Fear for me? Why fear for me? None safer in all the world from them I am. And as I wondered at the meaning of her words, a puff of wind made the flame leap up, and I see the red scar on her forehead. Then alas I knew. Did I not, I would have soon learned, for the wheeling figures of mist and snow came closer, but keeping ever out of the holy circle. Then they began to materialize, till, if God have not taken away my reason, for I saw it through my own eyes, there were before me in actual flesh the same 3 women that Jonathan saw in the room, when they would have kissed his throat. I knew the swaying round forms, the upright hard eyes, the white teeth, the ruddy colour, the voluptuous lips. They smiled ever at poor dear Madam Mina, and as their laugh came through the silence of the night, they twined their arms and pointed to her, and said in those so sweet tingling tones that Jonathan said were of intolerable sweetness of the water glasses, "Come, sister, come to us. Come, come." In fear I turned to my poor Madam Mina, and my heart with gladness leapt like flame, for oh, the terror in her eyes, the repulsion, the horror, told a story to my heart that was all of hope. God be thanked she was not yet one of them. I seized some firewood which was by me, and holding out some of the wafer, advanced on them toward the fire. They drew back before me and laughed their low, horrid laugh. I fed the fire and feared them not, for I knew that we were safe within our protections. They could not approach me while so armed, nor Madam Mina while she remained within the ring, which she could not leave no more than they could enter. The horses had ceased to moan and lay still on the ground. The snow fell on them softly, and they grew whiter. I knew that there was for the poor beast no more of terror. And so we remained to the red of the dawn to fall through the snow gloom. I was desperate and afraid, and full of woe and terror. But when the beautiful sun began to climb the horizon, life was to me again. At the first coming of the dawn, the horrid figures melted in the whirling mist and snow. The wreaths of transparent gloom moved away toward the castle and were lost. Instinctively, with the dawn coming, I turned to Madam Mina, intending to hypnotize her, but she lay in a deep and sudden sleep, from which I could not wake her. I tried to hypnotize through her sleep, but she made no response, none at all, and the day broke. I fear yet to stir. I have made my fire and have seen the horses. They are all dead. Today I have much to do here, and I keep waiting till the sun is up high, for there be many places where I must go, where the sunlight, though snow and mist obscure it, there will be to me a safety. I will strengthen me with breakfast, and then I will to my terrible work. Madam Mina still sleeps, and God be thanked, she is calm in her sleep. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 4th November, evening. The accident to the launch has been a terrible thing for us. Only for it we should have overtaken the boat long ago, and by now my dear Mina would have been free. I fear to think of her, off on the wolds near that horrid place. We have got horses, and we follow on the track. I note this whilst Godalming is getting ready. We have our arms. The Sgani must look out if they mean to fight. Though if only Morris and Seward were here. We must only hope. If I write no more, goodbye, Mina. God bless and keep you. Dr. Seward's Diary. 5th November. With the dawn we saw the body of Sgani before us dashing away from the river with their litre wagon. They surrounded it in a cluster and hurried along as though beset. The snow is falling lightly, and there is a strange excitement in the air. It may be our own feelings, but the depression is strange. Far off I hear the howling of wolves. The snow brings them down from the mountains, and there are dangers to all of us, and from all sides. The horses are nearly ready, and we are soon off. We ride to death of someone. God only knows who, or where, or what, or when, or how it may be. Dr. Van Helsing's Memorandum. 5th November, afternoon. I am at least sane. Thank God for the mercy at all events, though the proving it has been dreadful. When I left Madam Mina sleeping within the holy circle, I took my way to the castle. The blacksmith's hammer which I took in the carriage from Veresti was useful, Though the doors were all open, I broke them off the rusty hinges, lest some ill intent or ill chance should close them, so that being entered I might not get out. Jonathan's bitter experience served me here. By memory of his diary, I found my way to the old chapel, for I knew that here my work lay. The air was oppressive. It seemed as if there was some sulphurous fume, which at times made me dizzy. Either there was a roaring in my ears, or I heard afar off the howling of wolves. Then I bethought me of my dear Madam Mina, and I was in a terrible plight. The dilemma had me between his horns. Her I do not dare to take into this. Her I dare not. Oh my lord! Her I had not dared take into this place, but left safe from the vampire in that holy circle, and yet even there would be the wolf. I resolved me that my work lay here, and that as to the wolves we must submit, if it were God's will. At any rate, it was only death and freedom beyond, so did I choose for her. Had it been but for myself, the choice had been easy. The maw of the wolf were better to rest in than the grave of the vampire. So I make my choice to go on with my work. I knew that there were at least 3 graves to find, graves that are in habit, so I search, and I find one of them. She lay in her vampire sleep, so full of life and voluptuous beauty that I shudder as though I have come to do murder. I doubt not in old time, when such things were, many a man who set forth to do such a task as mine found at the last his heart fail him, and then his nerve. So he delay, till the mere beauty and the fascination of the wanton undead have hypnotized him, and he remain on and on till sunset come, and the vampire sleep be over. Then the beautiful eyes of the fair woman open and look love, and the voluptuous mouth present to a kiss, and man is weak. And there remain one more victim in the vampire fold, one more to swell the grim and grisly ranks of the undead. There is some fascination, surely, when I am moved by the mere presence of such a one, even lying as she lay in a tomb fetid with age and heavy with the dust of centuries, though there be that horrid odour such as the layers of the Count have had. Yes, I was moved. I, Van Helsing, with all my purpose and with my motive for hate. I was moved to a yearning for delay which seemed to paralyze my faculties and to clog my very soul. It may have been that the need of natural sleep and the strange oppression of the air were beginning to overcome me. Certain it was that I was lapsing into sleep, the open-eyed sleep of one who yields to a sweet fascination, when there came through the snow-stilled air a long, low wail, so full of woe and pity that it woke me like the sound of a clarion, for it was the voice of my dear Madam Mina that I heard. Then I braced myself again to my horrid task, and found by wrenching away tomb-tops one another of the sisters, the dark one. I dared not pause to look at her as I had on her sister, lest once more I should begin to enthrall. But I go on searching, until presently I find in a high great tomb, as if made to one much beloved, that other fair sister, which, like Jonathan, I had seen to gather herself out of the atoms of the mist. She was so fair to look on, so radiantly beautiful, so exquisitely voluptuous, that the very instinct of man in me, which calls some of my sex to love and to protect one of hers, made my head whirl with new emotion. But God be thanked, the sole wail of my dear Madam Mina had not died out of my ears, and before the spell would be wrought further upon me, I had nerved myself to my wild work. By this time I had searched all of the tombs in the chapel, so far as I could tell, and as there had been only 3 of these undead phantoms around us in the night, I took it that there were no more of active undead existent. There was one great tomb more loudly than all the rest. Huge it was, and nobly proportioned. On it was but one word: Dracula. This then was the undead home of the king vampire, to whom so many more were due. Its emptiness spoke eloquent to make certain what I knew. Before I began to restore these women to their dead selves through my awful work, I laid in Dracula's tomb some of the wafer, and so banished him from it, undead forever. Then began my terrible task, and I dreaded it. Had it been but one, it would have been easy, comparative. But 3? To begin twice more after I had been through a deed of horror, for it was terrible with the sweet Miss Lucy, Would it not be that these strange ones who had survived through centuries, and who had been strengthened by the passing of the years, who would, if they could, have fought for their foul lives? Oh, my friend John, but it was butcher work. Had I not been nerved by thoughts of the other dead, and of the living of whom hung such a pall of fear, I could not have gone on. I tremble and tremble even yet, though till all was over, God be thanked, my nerve did stand. Had I not seen the repose in the first place, and the gladness that stole over it just ere the final dissolution came, as realization that the soul has been won, I could not have gone further with my butchery. I could not have endured the horrid screeching as the stake drove home, the plunging of writhing form and lips of bloody foam. I should have fled in terror and left my work undone. But it is over. And the poor souls, I can pity them now and weep, as I think of them placid each in her full sleep of death for a short moment ere fading. Poor friend John, hardly had my knife severed the head of each before the whole body began to melt away and crumble into its native dust, as though the death that should have come centuries agone had at last assert himself and say at once and loud, I am here. Before I left the castle, I so fixed its entrances that nevermore can the Count enter there undead. When I stepped into the circle where Madam Mina slept, she woke from her sleep, and seeing me, cried out in pain that I had endured too much. Come, she said, come away from this awful place. Let us go to meet my husband, who is, I know, coming towards us. She was looking thin and pale and weak, but her eyes were pure and glowed with fervour. I was glad to see her paleness and her illness, for my mind was full of the fresh horror of that ruddy vampire sleep. And so with trust and hope, and yet full of fear, we go eastward to meet our friends, and him, whom Madam Mina tell me she know, are coming to meet us. Mina Harker's Journal. 6th November. It was late in the afternoon when the Professor and I took our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan was coming. We did not go fast, though the way was steeply downhill, for we had to take heavy rugs and wraps with us. We dared not face the possibility of being left without warmth in the cold and the snow. We had to take some of our provisions, too, for we were in a perfect desolation, and so far as we could see through the snowfall, there was not even the sign of habitation. When we had gone about a mile, I was tired with the heavy walking and sat down to rest. Then we looked back and saw where the clear line of Dracula's castle cut the sky, but we were so deep under the hill whereon it was set, that the angle of perspective of the Carpathian mountains was far below it. We saw it in all its grandeur, perched 1,000 feet on the summit of a sheer precipice, and with seemingly a great gap between it and the steep of the adjacent mountain on any side. There was something wild and uncanny about the place. We could hear the distant howling of wolves. They were far off, but the sound, even though coming muffled through the deadening snowfall, was full of terror. I knew from the way Dr. Van Helsing was searching about that he was trying to seek some strategic point where we would be less exposed in case of attack. The rough roadway still led downwards. We could trace it through the drifted snow. In a little while the Professor signalled to me, so I got up and joined him. He found a wonderful little spot, a sort of natural hollow in a rock, with an entrance like a doorway between two boulders. He took me by the hand and drew me in. See, he said, here you will be in shelter, and if the wolves do come, I can meet them one by one. He brought in our furs and made a snug nest for me, and got out some provisions and forced them upon me. But I could not eat. To even try to do so was repulsive to me, and much as I would have liked to please him, I could not bring myself to attempt. He looked very sad, but did not reproach me. Taking his field glasses from the case, he stood up on top of the rock and began to search the horizon. Suddenly he called out, "Look, Madam Mina, look, look!" I sprang up and stood beside him on the rock. He handed me his glasses and pointed. The snow was now falling more heavily and swirled about fiercely, for a high wind was beginning to blow. However, there were times when there were pauses between the snow flurries, and I could see a long way round. From the height where we were, it was possible to see a great distance, and far off beyond the white waste of snow, I could see the river lying like a black ribbon in kinks and curls as it wound its way. Straight in front of us, and not far off, and not far off, in fact, so near that I wondered we had not noticed before, came a group of mounted men hurrying along. In the midst of them was a cart, a long leiter wagon which swept from side to side like a dog's tail wagging, with each stern inequality of the road. Outlined against the snow as they were, I could see from the men's clothes that they were peasants or gypsies of some kind. On the cart was a great square chest. My heart leapt as I saw it, for I felt the end was coming. The evening was now drawing close, and well I knew that at sunset the thing, which was still then imprisoned there, would take new freedom, and could in many forms elude all pursuit. In fear I turned to the professor, to my consternation. However, he was not there. An instant later I saw him below me. Round the rock he'd drawn a circle, such as we had found shelter in last night. When he completed it, he stood beside me again, saying, "At least you shall be safe here from him." He took the glasses from me, and at the next lull of the snow swept the whole space below us. "See," he said, "they come quickly. They are flogging the horses and galloping as hard as they can." He paused and went on in a hollow voice. "They are racing for the sunset. We may be too late. God's will be done." Down came another blinding rush of driving snow, and the whole landscape was blotted out. It soon passed, however, and once more his glasses were fixed on the plain. Then a sudden cry. "Look, look, look! See, 2 horsemen follow fast, coming up from the south. It must be Quincy and John. Take the glass, look before the snow blots it all out." I took it and looked. The 2 men might be Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris. I knew at all events that neither of them were Jonathan. At the same time I knew that Jonathan was not far off. Looking around, I saw on the north side of the coming party 2 other men riding at breakneck speed. One of them I knew was Jonathan, and the other one I took, of course, to be Lord Godalming. They, too, were pursuing the party with the cart. When I told the professor, he shouted in glee like a schoolboy, and after looking intently till a snowfall made sight impossible, he laid his Winchester rifle ready for use against the boulder at the opening of our shelter. "They are all converging," he said. "When the time comes, we shall have gypsies on all sides." I got out my revolver ready to hand, but whilst we were speaking the howling of the wolves became louder and closer. When the snowstorm abated a moment, we looked again. It was strange to see the snow falling in such heavy flakes close to us, and beyond, the sun shining more and more brightly as it sank down towards the far mountain tops. Sweeping the glass all round us, I could see here and there dots moving singly and in 2s and 3s and larger numbers. The wolves were gathering for their prey. Every instant seemed an age while we waited. The wind came now in fierce bursts, and the snow was driven with fury as it swept upon us in circling eddies. At times we could not see an arm's length before us, but at others, as the hollow-sounding wind swept by us, it seemed to clear the airspace round us so that we could see afar off. We had of late been so accustomed to watch for sunrise and sunset that we knew with fair accuracy when it would be, and we knew that before long the sun would set. It was hard to believe that by our watches it was less than an hour till we waited in that rocky shelter before the various bodies began to converge close upon us. The wind came now with fiercer and more bitter sweeps, and more steadily from the north. It seemingly had driven the snow clouds from us, for with only occasional bursts the snow fell. We could distinguish clearly the individuals of each party, the pursued and the pursuers. Strangely enough, those pursued did not seem to realize, or at least not to care, that they were being pursued. They seemed, however, to hasten with redoubled speed as the sun dropped lower and lower on the mountain tops. Closer and closer they drew. The professor and I crouched down behind our rock and held our weapons ready. I could see that he was determined that they should not pass. One and all were quite unaware of our presence. All at once 2 voices shouted out to "Halt!" One was my Jonathan, raised in a high key of passion. The other Mr. Morris's strong, resolute tone of quiet command. The gypsies may not have known the language, but there was no mistaking the tone, in whatever tongue the words were spoken. Instinctively they reined in, and at the instant Lord Godalming and Jonathan dashed up at one side, and Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris on the other. The leader of the gypsies, a splendid-looking fellow who sat his horse like a centaur, waved them back, and in a fierce voice gave to his companions some word to proceed. They lashed the horses, which sprang forward, but the 4 men raised their Winchester rifles, and in an unmistakable way commanded them to stop. At the same moment, Dr. Van Helsing and I rose behind the rock and pointed our weapons at them. Seeing that they were surrounded, the men tightened the reins and drew up. The leader turned to them and gave a word, at which every man of the gypsy party drew what weapon he carried, knife or pistol, and held himself in readiness to attack. Issue was joined in an instant. The leader, with a quick movement of his rein, threw his horse out in front, and pointing first to the sun, now close down on the hilltops, and then to the castle, said something which I did not understand. For answer, all 4 men of our party threw themselves from their horses and dashed towards the cart. I should have had terrible fear at seeing Jonathan in such danger, but that the ardour of battle must have been upon me as well as the rest of them. I felt no fear, but only a wild, surging desire to do something. Seeing the quick movement of our parties, the leader of the gypsies gave a command. His men instantly formed round the cart in sort of undisciplined endeavour, each one shouldering and pushing the other in his eagerness to carry out the order. In the midst of this, I could see that Jonathan on one side of the ring of men, and Quincy on the other, were forcing a way to the cart. It was evident that they were bent on finishing their task before the sun should set. Nothing seemed to stop or even hinder them. Neither the levelled weapons, nor the flashing knives of the gypsies in front, nor the howling of the wolves behind, appeared to even attract their attention. Jonathan's impetuosity and the manifest singleness of his purpose seemed to overawe those in front of him. Instinctively they cowered aside and let him pass. In an instant he had jumped upon the cart, and with a great strength which seemed incredible, raised the great box and flung it over the wheel to the ground. In the meantime, Mr. Morris had had to use force to pass through his side of the ring of Jgani. All the time I had been breathlessly watching Jonathan. I had, with the tail of my eye, seen him pressing desperately forward, and had seen the knives of the gypsies flash as he won a way through them, and they cut at him. He parried with his great bowie knife, and at first I thought that he too had come through in safety, but as he sprang aside, Jonathan, who had by now jumped from the cart, I could see that with his left hand he was clutching at his side, and that the blood was spurting through his fingers. He did not delay withstanding this, for as Jonathan, with desperate energy, attacked one end of the chest, attempting to prise off the lid with his great kukri knife, he attacked the other frantically with his bowie. Under the efforts of both men, the lid began to yield. The nails drew with a quick screeching sound, and the top of the box was thrown back. By this time the gypsies, seeing themselves covered by the Winchesters and at the mercy of Lord Godalming and Dr. Seward, had given in and made no resistance. The sun was almost down on the mountain tops, and the shadows of the whole group fell long upon the snow. I saw the Count lying within the box upon the earth, some of which the rude falling from the cart had scattered over him. He was deathly pale, just like a waxen image, and the red eyes glared with the horrible vindictive look which I knew too well. As I looked, the eyes saw the sinking sun, and the look of hate in them turned to triumph. But on the instant came the sweep and flash of Jonathan's great knife. I shrieked as I saw it shear through the throat, whilst at the same moment Mr. Morris's bowie knife plunged into the heart. It was like a miracle, but before our very eyes, and almost in the drawing of a breath, the whole body crumbled into dust and passed from our sight. I shall be glad as long as I live that even in the moment of final dissolution there was in that face a look of peace, such as I never could have imagined have rested there. The castle of Dracula now stood out against the red sky, and every stone of its broken battlements was articulated against the light of the setting sun. The gypsies, taking us in some way the cause of the extraordinary disappearance of the dead man, turned without a word and rode away as if for their lives. Those who were unmounted jumped upon the litter wagon and shouted to the horsemen not to desert them. The wolves, which had withdrawn to a safe distance, followed in their wake, leaving us alone. Mr. Morris, who had sunk to the ground, leaned on his elbow, holding his hand pressed to his side. The blood still gushed through his fingers. I flew to him, for the holy circle did now not keep me back. So did the 2 doctors. Jonathan knelt behind him, and the wounded man laid his head on his shoulder. With a sigh he took, with a feeble effort, my hand in that of his own, which was unstained. He must have seen the anguish of my heart in my face, for he smiled at me and said, "I am only too happy to have been of any service." "Oh, God!" he cried suddenly, struggling up to a sitting posture and pointing to me. "It was worth for this to die. Look, look." The sun was now right on upon the mountain top, and the red gleams fell upon my face so that it was bathed in rosy light. With one impulse the men sank on their knees, and a deep and earnest "Amen" broke from all as their eyes followed the pointing of his fingers. The dying man spoke. "Now God be thanked that all has not been in vain. See, the snow is not more stainless than her forehead. Curse has passed away." And to our bitter grief, with a smile and in silence, he died, a gallant gentleman. Note: 7 years ago we all went through the flames, and the happiness of some of us since then is, we think, well worth the pain we endured. It is an added joy to Mina and to me that our boy's birthday is the same day as that on which Quincy Morris died. His mother holds, I know, the secret belief that some of our brave friend's spirit has passed into him. His bundle of names links all our little band of men together, but we call him Quincy. In the summer of this year we made a journey to Transylvania, and went over the old ground which was, and is, to us, so full of vivid and terrible memories. It was almost impossible to believe that the things which we had seen with our own eyes and heard with our own ears were living truths. Every trace of all that has been was blotted out. The castle stood as before, reared high above a waste of desolation. When we got home we were talking of the old time, which we could all look back on without despair, for Godalming and Seward are both happily married. I took the papers from the safe where they had been ever since our return so long. We were struck with the fact that in all the mass of material of which the record is composed, there is hardly one authentic document, nothing but a mass of typewriting, except the later notebooks of Mina and Seward and myself, and Van Helsing's memorandum. We could hardly ask anyone, even did we wish to accept these as proofs of so wild a story. Van Helsing summed it all up as he said, with our boy on his knee, "We want no proofs. We ask none to believe us. This boy will some day know what a brave and gallant woman his mother is. Already he knows her sweetness and loving care. Later on he will understand how some men so loved her that they did dare much for her sake." Jonathan Harker. The end.
You had to get in just one more fact that Mina is the most beautiful, gallant young woman ever.
That's his job.
I mean, apparently.
He loves her.
I was gonna say, I think Jonathan's only second to Van Helsing. That wasn't bad. Bit of an anticlimactic ending. I don't know.
Quincy Morris stabbed him, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So he did, kill him.
No quip though.
No.
Kind of ruins it.
No.
But poor Quincy.
Yeah.
Why? Everyone else made it, but not him.
Not the Texan. Rest in peace, Quincy Morris.
Oh my god. You know, I can't knock points off because I'm sure it wasn't like a cliche at the time of writing this, but the whole sun on her face and the pink glow and everything.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
It's very Victorian, she's pure in the eyes of God kind of imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a very They stopped the horses, they opened the lid, and they just did it. No final fight.
It all ended so quickly. I know.
Yep.
Van Helsing's just like, oh, I'm just gonna walk into the castle. I'll just kill these ladies.
And he just does.
Yeah. And then
Boop, boop. Wait, gotta put a little Jesus cracker around Madame Mina, make sure she's safe. Which,
little Jesus dust.
that's not gonna stop wolves, but okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Like
That's great. Dracula can't get her, but wolves.
wolves can, and he even said it like, well, the wolves can get her, but
They're only the second thing we have to worry about.
I have to do this. If she dies, she dies.
If she dies, she dies. Our whole thing is to keep her alive, but I just wanted to travel.
I do
kill
like
some
the
vampires.
I do like the imagery of Dracula's brides like swirling around in the snow.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a cool image. I zoned out, and then all of a sudden Dracula was getting stabbed. See, that's what happens. Well, it was also just like this chapter parallels Jonathan's first chapter with like Mina talking about how pretty the atmosphere is and the traveling and da-da-da.
It ends where it started.
It does some ring composition right there.
No, I agree. It was just such a fast ending. Like paragraph of just them rootin', tootin', and shooting, and then they pry open the case.
And
Dracula smiles because the sun's going down. I thought he was about to go full vampire action, but nope. Jonathan is just like, not today. Slice.
Mm-hmm.
Quincy had to get a good stab in there.
He got him in the heart. Jonathan did the throat slit, but Quincy did this bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny to me that he's like the least character, and he's the one who like stabs him in the heart.
I know.
So like in a way, you were like, wouldn't it be awesome if Quincy Morris killed him? So
I was right.
Yep.
Technically. But just not in the fashion I was hoping.
Yes. Alas, no. That's
Voldemort
true.
got a much longer death scene. Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Dracula didn't really get to monologue, did he?
No.
Nope.
I almost feel like it would have been more appropriate, like at the end, if Jonathan just started stabbing him over and over and over again.
They have to like pull him off of him.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Dracula caused him a lot of trauma.
I mean, Jonathan was like Super Saiyan. Mina's like, he just pushed him back. I don't know how he did it, but they couldn't get him and they couldn't attack him. And Jonathan is just like, ugh. Man on a mission.
Yeah, definitely. There was definitely some emotion in that for him.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so funny that the very end of the book is just like Van Helsing saying, Madame Mina, so perfect, so beautiful, so lovely.
That's what I was saying. Like, it had to end that way, of course. Honestly, so overall, the story overall is, I thought it was pretty good. But I think you could take out, like, all the repetitive, redundant planning and take out Van Helsing's like talks about what a amazing woman Mina is, and this could be like 10 chapters long.
Yeah. He does mention how brilliant she is quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, for a Victorian woman, she was very forward thinking, very progressive, very outside the box, being interested in things other than having children and taking care of a home was very radical at the time. So she is extraordinary in that way. However, we don't need Van Helsing to remind us of that every 2 seconds.
But how would you know?
By her actions. And what she
says. That would require you to like pay attention.
That's true.
Infer from the story.
That's true.
You gotta remember, this was Victorian times. People were eating drywall. There was mercury in everything.
Arsenic on the wallpaper.
Lead was like a treatment to stomach aches.
Ugh. Ugh.
It wasn't a treatment to stomach. There was something. Or
I
like
don't know
lead and
why,
mercury.
but that reminded me of a thing I just read on like Reddit. It was this dude was like, I've been constipated for 2 days. I just ate 2 California Reapers. Let's go. I'm like, dude, it's not how it works.
That sounds awful.
That sounds so awful.
People say those kinds of things in their diaries, and Frank had some things that could have been left out. I mean, fair enough.
In
that
with
is
Dan
another thing.
defending everything we say. Defending against everything we say every time.
Well, I mean, he does have a point.
No,
where
he does.
Like,
It's the structure.
you know, people's diaries aren't always the most entertaining.
I mean, I remember reading the Diary of Anne Frank and like reading things that were just like, oh my god, why? I don't need to read this. So yeah, there's definitely is that aspect of it. But I mean,
there is a difference when it's a fictional diary versus a real one. You know, fictional, you can, have some fun and leave out some of that stuff, but maybe that's just maybe it was an artistic choice to make it more realistic so that people reading it, would be a little freaked out more, like, did this really happen? Is this someone's real diary?
not always the most modern PC. Like as in politically correct. See?
Oh, Dracula? Oh, this is nowhere close to PC.
No, God, no, not even a little bit. It's definitely anchored in its time.
Yeah.
I think we're just saying we understand it is rooted in its time and its place. But just like, oh dear Madam Mina, how intelligent you are, and let's pray to God. Like, okay, yes, we understand. That's all.
Yeah, coming from a perspective like modern times and just like how enjoyable it is to read, I guess. One of those things.
I mean, I still find it enjoyable to read.
I think there was enough of the good that like I would read it.
Like, you just
like
pick it
if
up
someone
and read
hasn't read it, I would suggest reading it.
Yeah. Oh, I will say read it all day long. I mean, because there are some parts of it that I find entertaining.
Because there are definitely some classics where it's like for your average reader who's just reading to enjoy it, I think it's kind of pointless because there's so many like dry classics. But like if you want to be a writer or you're studying English literature and stuff like that, like there's there's a ton you can take away from those. But
you're saying if you're just like a casual.
Yeah. Like even as a casual reader, I would probably read this. But like
I think it has mass appeal, and I think those Victorian elements that are very obviously like to us are just like whoa, but they also demonstrate like this is why this book was such a huge thing. This is why it was polarizing. This is why it was so popular. You can see why to that audience this book was like whoa.
Yeah.
And how it can still resonate today. Like when Jonathan in the very beginning is talking about the paprika dish and he thinks he ate too much. They had too much paprika on the dish and that's why he had bad dreams or had weird dreams. But he has to get the recipe.
Well, yeah.
So like things like that like are still very much relatable to a modern audience.
Paprika and spices gave you bad dreams. I would have nothing but nightmares.
Or weird dreams or whatever it was he said. I can't remember. It's been so long since we started this journey of Dracula.
Give it a little bit of romance. I wouldn't say there's a lot of romance in this.
I mean, there is with the three suitors and Jonathan and Mina's love for each other.
Yeah, but it's like
not
a
the centerpiece of the-
paragraph every 5 chapters.
It's a B plot. It's not the main plot. And there's a
I guess
definitely.
you can also count the voluptuousness of the brides.
Well, there's
too,
definitely the implied
Van
like
Helsing seemed to be falling in love.
the implied sexual lust element of the vampires too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely there.
Like I said early on, they're attractive. They're vampires. Stay away.
I know Van Helsing was like, I could sit and stare at him all day, and then they're gonna like wake up and eat me.
Kind of weird, Van Helsing. I think you deserve that if you just stood there staring at them sleeping.
I mean,
For being a creep.
he is old.
What's that supposed to mean?
He doesn't get out much.
Aegis.
But I think he's a widower too. Like his wife is dead, or what did he say about his wife? They're like married, but she's like an invalid or something. Like I don't know.
Like, if I know anything about Van Helsing, he only has eyes for Mina.
That's true. That's
Good
true.
thing they don't have paternity tests. Otherwise, Jonathan might be a little shocked.
I don't know. I think Mina really loves her Jonathan.
No, I think she does too.
They're actually very cute.
So what do you think overall?
I thought it was good. I do like the book quite a lot. I do like the characters. I think they're all they're all pretty good. I know it's dumb, but like I just wish there was a little more Dracula in it, cuz we get like 4 chapters and then that's like it. And I'm just like, I know that's like the whole thing of like the less is more thing. But I just want a little more, cuz he's so fun.
Yeah.
But no, I liked it. It's a good book. I like it a lot.
It would be great if we could get like Dracula's perspective of everything
Dear Diary.
and his like inner torment and that sort of thing.
Yeah, or whatever he is thinking at the time, or reaction to events.
Yeah.
Oh, Melanie, thank you so much.
Melanie, thank you so much for that 20.
That's awesome. Thank you. We very much appreciates that.
Did the Yankees win? Or is that why you're in such a good mood?
Right. Can't be us.
No, but they were winning it.
I don't know. I was reading. I know they were talking about it in the chat, but
no, seriously, thank you, Melanie.
no, that was
We really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Yep, Dan with an update. And now we're gonna have to, I guess, find something else to read.
I guess so.
But no, Dracula is really good. I think I guess I'd have to go back and reread Frankenstein to see. But yeah, Dracula's good. It's good.
I've never read Frankenstein.
I've been enjoying your readings for about 2 years. This is true. This is true. You've hung out for quite some time. We appreciate it. You're awesome. I don't remember Frankenstein. I remember it, but I think now that this is so fresh in my mind, I'd have to go back and reread it. And
Are there any Thanksgiving classics?
I mean, all I can think of is the Thanksgiving episode of WKRP.
Of what?
WKRP in Cincinnati. The TV show about a radio station. And in the episode, it's Thanksgiving, and the weatherman, Les Nessman, does like a special. And they go through and they do this report on a helicopter. And they drop live turkeys out of the helicopter towards the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's awful. It's horrible. It's like this awful thing. And Les Nessman comes back and he's like, I didn't know that turkeys couldn't fly. just dropping turkeys to their deaths, and just that's the whole episode.
That's awful.
It's so funny. It is
Halloween.
Halloween. I know.
In just over an hour.
I know. About an hour it'll be Halloween.
Candy time.
Candy time, spooky time, trick or treat. And we'll see if we can't do some kind of maybe Dracula live stream.
Dracula? We just did like a month worth of Dracula live streams.
I know, but
What are
we
you talking
should
about?
watch one of them.
Oh,
or whatever.
I was gonna say we just
We just
what did
finished.
we just do.
Who is your favorite character?
Actually, a tough one. There were some good characters. I definitely like Quincy.
I knew it.
He was just fun always, you know.
Yeah,
Because he even back in the 1800s, Americans were still viewed as Americans. Like,
yeah, it hasn't changed much.
yeah, it's the same thing. Or Jonathan, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like his Super Saiyan glow up?
Oh yeah, and still after finishing that, the first 2 or 3 chapters with Jonathan and Dracula's castle, still my favorite part of it.
Oh yeah, best part of the book.
Yeah, starts off strong.
Jamaican Helsing. All right, I can respect those choices. I think those are good choices.
How about you? Honestly, Van Helsing was one of my favorite characters until he started doing his honestly, when he started planning, because then it was just Mina this, God that. We have to kill Dracula, but Mina's so amazing. Make sure you protect Mina so that we can kill Dracula for God and this and Mina and this and that. Like, okay, dude, we get it. Kill Dracula, save the girl.
Yeah,
That's all you gotta say.
pretty much. All right, Melanie, I can definitely appreciate that. Honorable mention to Renfield.
Oh yeah,
You forgot about Renfield.
Renfield. Renfield was pretty great. Yeah, he's definitely top 3.
I think
I think Jonathan just overall character development was better, but Quincy and Renfield were just great entertainment.
I think when you read the book and you get to know Jonathan in the book, and then you watch different iterations of Dracula, like his character just gets shafted so many times. Just shafted over and over and over again. It's kind of a bummer. Because reading it through this time, like I really like Jonathan a lot. I think he's quite the hero, force to be reckoned with character, but you only get that when you read the book. I like Dracula. I'm sorry. I really like Dracula. The first 4 chapters, like he just hits so hard.
I mean, yeah, I
I like
put him up there because we don't get enough.
I like the creepiness and how he says the things and how he's a boyar and all this stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, you tell him, you weirdo, your hairy palms. Renfield's great. Love Renfield. Yeah, I think those are my toppers. I do like Van Helsing a lot too, though. I like all of his stuff at the beginning when he talks about King Laugh and all that. That stuff was great.
So John, Ren, and Drek.
Yeah, I think so.
Things he did in Diaries were in about that. Yeah,
That's true, because he's like there, the big bat at the window, and the figure stuck in Lucy's blood at the pier, and all that stuff. Like he's there. Just you like the reader knows, like, ooh, there he is. That's Dracula right there. That's Dracula.
that's true.
But no one else knows.
Dog.
Yep, he's like the big wolf dog thing. The whole thing with the ship.
I'm salty we didn't get like a diary from the captain that like went more into detail.
And
We
it's
needed
just
more from the
a
ship.
single chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that could have been broken down into 3 chapters.
You could have.
Like the
So what you're saying is
castle.
less planning, more ship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could have cut out, just even 1 chapter and had enough room to do a whole nother ship chapter.
That's true.
Give those creepy vibes on the ship.
I
Just
like
people
the
dropping like flies.
I like the interview with the zookeeper too.
Of course, because they're a zookeeper.
Well, yeah. It was good. I liked it. Talks about taking care of the woofies and the yeens and all the other animals. Oh my god, that'd be me. No, it wouldn't
But-
because I wouldn't be allowed to have a job, but still.
That's right.
Wow, okay.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. It was okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. We have done a thing. It is over. We have finished Dracula.
Skipper was good too. Yeah. But again, not enough of him. I said I didn't get enough of Drag. I definitely didn't get enough of the Skipper.
Oh, the like the old sailor guy.
I think he's talking about the skipper, the boat captain, or no, maybe yeah. Do you mean the like old skipper, the guy who was talking to Lucy, or the captain?
Of the Demeter. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Was he the skipper? I think he's called captain.
Yeah, I don't know. Those are just like right off everything is a cold read, so it just is like I'm absorbing what I've just read, and I've not practiced reading. So I don't know. So it was good. It was good. It was nice to be done right before Halloween.
Right. Even with the holdups.
I know.
Done.
I know. We didn't get to stream every evening that we would have liked to have streamed. Things happening and whatever else, but oh,
And someone was talking to a skipper. And briefly mentioned. Yeah, that was the skipper that Lucy was talking to.
The old
who,
man
was found dead.
Old Mr. Swales.
Yeah.
Talking about the people lying in their tombstones thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
How did he die? He like fell over backwards, or I mean, we
Yeah.
know it was Dracula, but
Well, yeah. That's the whole thing. That's part of why I liked it in the book. Was like, that was Dracula. That was Dracula. That was Dracula. He'd being sneaky.
I mean, yeah, it is good. It definitely adds to like the horror, like freakiness of it.
I think it's an interesting element because
And-
you, as the reader, know, and you're reading these people, their thoughts and their ideas, and they have no idea. And like you, as the reader, always knows what like is like figured it out, but you have to sit there and wait for the characters to figure it out. And it's just kind of like this whole thing where there's the suspense there for the reader because the reader is like, it's Dracula, you idiots. And they're like, I wonder what's happening to Lucy. But the reader is like, it's Dracula.
She's a vampire.
Yeah.
Run.
No worries, Ren. But thank you for popping in at least to say happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
And have fun catching up. Hopefully you like the rest of the book.
That being said, I would love if there were like notes on Dracula and then they ended up releasing it, or we could get the whole story from his perspective and like maybe figure out like his struggles, because at the end there, like what did it say? He looks relieved.
Lori, you are so welcome. And we are so happy that you are enjoying all the young dudes. You can definitely pop in and say thank you. That is lovely. Sorry, I cut you off.
It was a good fan fiction, that's for sure. Can't remember what I was saying. Yeah, because at the end,
Dracula's
they were talking
perspective. You're
About,
talking about
Dracula felt that, or they said like on his face, his expression looked relieved,
Peaceful. Yeah.
peaceful. I wonder if he had like inner turmoil. He didn't want to kill, but he had to.
I think he was probably so sick of living this way for so long. You know?
Yeah.
That just the eternal existence thing gets old after a while.
Maybe.
I don't know. Dude's been doing it for a long time. But, you know, it could be the isolation of immortality. It could be... I don't know if it would necessarily be guilt. Because he was like a warrior and all that stuff.
I mean, he could just go, make friends and not eat them.
Yeah, but it's part of the hunger and everything else. Like, I mean, if he's around living people, is it like he smells their blood, he can hear their heartbeat, and he's just like compulsively drawn to eating them? You know what I mean? And maybe that's the struggle. Is like, I do want people and I want friends, but I can't not eat them.
Well, we did get the glimpse that yes, with blood. Because Jonathan cut himself and he like couldn't stop himself.
Yeah, he was like, "Ooh!"
But outside of that, like he was fine with Jonathan.
Right.
He was gonna end up eating him eventually, but he could control himself.
I read the name Dracula means son of a dragon. I could see this as an allusion to the dragon in the Book of the Revelations, or of John the Baptist and Jesus calling the Pharisees sons of snakes. This could probably, definitely is. I mean, this book is very heavily Christian in a lot of ways. So I definitely think it, I mean, he is very much like, they refer to him as a devil or an evil thing, So he's definitely like a personification of Satan, sin, devil, all that stuff.
No, this book is based in Christianity. I'm shocked.
I know, right?
Shocked. Van Helsing, all that preaching, I thought it was just, I don't know, old man ramblings. No. Yeah. I've been trying to figure it out. Maybe it's just because I'm tired, but like Dracula, like obviously he's supposed to kind of represent the devil and corruption.
Yeah, corruption. I mean, it's very obvious that he is this force of nature that is corrupting the women.
Yeah.
Corrupting anyone that he comes in contact with. I mean, with the women, it's the most obvious, but I mean, you see it with Renfield too. Like with the women, it's all about, sexuality and ownership and agency and all that stuff. And with Renfield, it's the promise of immortality and all this. And all these things are deadly sins in a way, the whole like the lust thing and all that. And then Renfield like being gluttonous and greedy in his zealousness for flies and immortality.
Yeah. And like becoming a vampire turns you into like a shell of a person,
Yeah. Oh, he was just bored being immortal. I mean, also an option.
It gets lonely in that castle.
Probably does.
That's why he kept Jonathan around as long as he did.
And his wives lived in the moon.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my God, he's Sokka.
So yeah, this is what happened to him.
Yep.
Oh, I wonder where
Could
Aang
be.
is.
Aang's Van Helsing.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
Aang is Van Helsing, I think.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe it was just loneliness. Maybe he just wanted to move to London so he'd be around more people. He was tired of living in this like desolate, isolated castle in the mountains where his only friends were wolves and gypsies.
I wouldn't call the gypsies his friends either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God, he must have been so excited when Jonathan was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I finally have someone to talk to. I mean, he did talk to him a lot.
he did talk to him a ton.
Yeah. I mean, planning for, his escapades and everything in London. Or did he just want a friend? Also, I'm kind of disappointed that we got the mention and the explanation early on about like the blue flame and everything, how you can't find it and how there's treasure hidden under there, and then it never came back and resulted in anything.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that
When you said I'd like to see them use it against him or use the blue flames, I did remember I was in the back of my mind going, they're not coming back. I'm very sorry.
when did Chekhov come up with his gun? That was after this, right? It wasn't like it was in the 1900s or something.
You know? Let's see.
Let's see if Bram Stoker has an excuse here. Was it before these rules were in place for writing? You know what? Maybe it was because he read this book and was like, what happened with the blue flame, that he decided, you know what? If you're going to put something in the book, it better come back and be useful later on. Anything?
I mean, he was born in 1860 and died in 1904.
No.
So
it's possible. That was afterwards.
could have overlapped a little bit.
All right. We'll let it go.
Yeah.
Hermione's blue flames. Wait, what?
She makes those blue flames. She's really good at making the little bluebell flames.
That's right. She a vampire. Ron. Oh, man, that's why she likes Ron.
Did she fall down?
No, she like jumped down and slipped.
Oh, Boba.
There was the binder there. She didn't.
I know, there's a lot of stuff just kind of hanging out there. Oh, Boba. I'm so sorry, oh, Boba. Ah, Boba. Ah, Boba. Sorry.
So yeah, I guess Dracula has the excuse. Or Bram has the excuse.
Could maybe not have known it. Also, Chekhov was a writer in Russia. Maybe Mr. Stoker did not get a chance to read any Chekhov before he passed away.
That's what I mean. We can say that.
But yeah. Anything else?
I think that's about it. I don't know. I mean, overall, it was good.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of filler here. A lot of filler arc.
Very dated in that way, because the tendency now is to like strip everything. If it doesn't drive the plot, don't include it. And
after reading this, I say for good reason.
I don't know. I am hesitant to say strip it all out and just put this in here, because
I guess not necessarily strip it all out, but I felt that a lot of the stuff that was left in that is kind of filler was redundant.
Yeah, that's true. There's a difference between repeating yourself all the time and really adding color and flavor to the story. I like a good balance somewhere in the middle there. I just don't want something that's super bare bones to just push the plot forward. I do want
I think a good example of someone who's in the middle, everyone references is Tolkien.
Some people say Tolkien is way too verbose and can talk about trees a lot less.
But he's not redundant with it. Like, he's very verbose and like detailed, but it's not, he doesn't tell you everything about this tree, and then 3 chapters later he comes across the same tree again and then reiterates everything that he said in the
No,
previous chapter.
but he does tell you everything you ever wanted to know about this tree, and some people don't really like that either.
I know. I'm just saying, I think he's like that middle ground.
I don't think he'd
Because
get
like you
published
said,
today,
there's
to
like,
be honest.
there's like that push towards strip everything, and then you have Bram, who has like all the filler with redundancies.
I do think Tolkien is a lot more detailed than Bram Stoker.
Oh yeah, this isn't about like quality of writing, because yeah, Tolkien was a much better writer in my opinion. But
there's a difference in what you're trying to say. Yeah, well, yeah, he did create a world. This is true, but I mean, he does not also say the same thing about the same tree every chapter like Van Helsing does about Madame Mina, is
And
what
I
you're
mean,
trying to say.
Bram Stoker did a good job with it in the beginning, because like when Jonathan was, going through the countryside, there was a lot of descriptions of the countryside and everything. And I'm pretty sure we talked about it like early on. At this point in time, like most people who read this book probably never lived outside of England. Like they had no idea. They couldn't see a picture of what Transylvania landscape would look like, so you had to be more detailed. I think that was fine. I think, he was very verbose.
Yeah, I don't think you're not complaining about that. You're complaining about, oh, Madame Mina is so precious to me. 2 paragraphs later, oh, the Madame Mina is so precious to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're
Have I
complaining
ever told
about.
you how precious Madame Mina is? Because she's very precious.
I'll remind you in case you forget.
Your man brain forgets sometimes, so I'll remind you that Madame Mina, she has woman's brain, but it works like a man's brain.
Yep. But yeah, overall.
But there's also Melville. I mean,
You can't put you have no skin in that game.
no. Well, I guess I kind of can. I basically listened to the entire book, because you would put it on and listen to it as you were falling asleep for the longest time. I mean, from what I got from that is, it seems like you had the story, and it seemed like it was broken up with some like textbook chapters here and there on like the biology of sperm whales, or like sailing.
So the even and the odd chapters are kind of like divided up into that way. Like I can't remember if it's the even or the odd chapters, but one set is the story, and the other set is like the textbook part. But like Melville does stuff with language that just like chef's kiss. The way that he writes things is just chef's kiss. The way that Tolkien writes is apparently bad. I do think that there is this push today to really make things so bare bones. But by the same token, I think writing purple prose is really hard to write well. Because I think you can write purple prose, but unless you're really good at it, don't do it. Because otherwise it's going to be really bad.
I think it depends on what you're writing, too.
That's true. Like,
if you're writing something that happens within like the real world, I don't think you really need all that, because usually people have their own idea and they can imagine it.
But by the same time, you could
creating like fantasy and stuff like that, I think you need that, because you're building this world and you need all those details and descriptions.
But at the same time, doing that in the real world can help someone appreciate the beauty in the mundane when you write it a certain way. I definitely think it depends on the writer. Can you write that well? If you can, go for it. If you can't, don't do it.
Know your limitations.
Know what you're good at. Yeah, know what you're good at, know what you're bad at. Purple prose is one of those things that's really difficult to write well. It just is, because 90% of the time it comes across as cheesy, corny, and just bleh. But when you write it well, it's like some of the most beautiful shit you'll ever read in your life.
Yeah. Because I don't know if anyone's ever said this, but I mean, usually you remember the bad stuff. So you leave out the bad stuff.
Dan literally just said I would rather read Tolkien than whatever it was you were silently reading the other day. The Iron Flame.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sparse. It's terrible. It's awful. But anyway, I think, all things considered, I do think Bram Stoker is kind of sparse. I don't think he's overly verbose compared to other authors of the time period. Like, I don't think his descriptions are overly wrought. I don't think his language is overly done. I think he's actually kind of a bare bones writer. It's just that
definitely in like the vocabulary used.
Oh my god, voluptuous like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It's just that like things are repeated a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I think the descriptions of the castle on the hill are a good example of Stoker is able to capture a full image of the castle on the hill with very little words. Whereas some people will do a whole paragraph of blah blah blah. That's why I said I think he is actually sparse. It's not that the language is verbose and crazy. It's that he's literally repeating things over and over.
So yeah, just don't repeat yourself.
Look for crutch words. Because this man had crutch words all over the place. Voluptuous. Oh my
god.
god.
Crutch sentences. What are you talking about?
Crutch sentences. Yeah. This is definitely a case of like a good book, but like you could definitely tell like this dude really liked certain words and phrases because he used them all the time. Oh, here we go. Why are we getting out Moby Dick? Oh. I mean, I'm down.
There's so much like empty space in this book though. Like huge, but
it's a nice copy.
I know. I'm just saying it looks like this mammoth book,
it is
but it's actually like
book.
not that many words.
I've had this copy of Moby Dick since I was a kid.
You know how I know?
I got this when I was like 10 years old, this copy of Dick.
It is a very nice copy. But you know how I know it's not that much? Because it fits in this.
Well, yes, but this one is still...
I want to do an experiment.
This is still 758 pages.
I'm just like... The text is the size of the book. So like,
but this one's also illustrated.
The text is nearly the same size in this book versus this book.
You leave it alone. They're both the same number of pages.
Exactly. I'm just saying.
This one is...
That was my point, though, is that like it's huge for no reason. Other than just like looking good on the shelf, I guess.
822 is this one.
Oh, that one does this have illustrations?
No,
that one has some nice
this one has illustrations
yeah.
in it.
Okay, fair enough.
I've had this
so
copy. We also have a children's illustrated edition of Moby Dick. I mean, we could read Moby Dick. I just don't know if we really want to read Moby Dick quite yet, because...
No, that's like a year process.
Yeah, I think we got to do some other things first. But like we will potentially read it eventually. What is this?
I might read it just for fun. Although I have a huge backlog right now. But yeah.
You do have a big backlog. We were thinking about doing A Christmas Carol in December. Yes.
Yep.
yeah, we were kind of already thinking like, yeah, we would read that for Christmas time.
Now that I basically know by heart.
Which is interesting because I've never read it.
I've only read it once, but
You-
my grandfather would take us every year to see the play.
Yep.
So,
Fair.
yeah.
I'm just gonna say, what
And then,
what
you
kind
know,
of
a Muppet
opening
Carol.
starts better than this? Like, how is this not like just grab you right out of the gate? Call me Ishmael. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no money in my purse and nothing particular to interest me on shore, I thought I would sail about a little and see the watery part of the world.
Way through Moby Dick, and then my Kindle got stolen. Placement. I'm so sorry, Dan.
You can do it, Dan. You can finish Moby Dick. I believe in you. Moby Dick is one of those things that like people do, like it's an undertaking. People are like, I'm gonna finally read this book. It's like a big challenge that people give themselves. I'm excited to read A Christmas Carol because I do basically know the story. Like, who doesn't know the story? But I've never actually read it. And I like Charles Dickens, so it's going to be fun. I think I'm going to really like it because I am a big fan of Mr. Dickens. Okay.
I find a lot of his stuff dry, to be honest. He's one of like the classics that I'm like just
I really like him. I like how he uses words and language.
You're also a writer, and this brings me back to my point about a lot of the classics. If you're not like getting inspiration to be a better writer,
I don't think you have to be a writer though to like it.
No, not necessarily, but
I think you can still not be a
chances
writer.
are-
And you can I think you can still be a reader and still enjoy the classics. Without
Yeah, I know, but I think too many people put too much emphasis on the classics sometimes. Where it's like you have to read it. Like if you don't enjoy it, don't read it. Unless like you want to be a writer or something, in which case suck it up, Buttercup. Take notes.
I don't know. I don't think he's dry. I don't think he's dry, but I definitely do like some of his books better than others. And it's not the language, it's the plot, the characters. So that is what that is.
Fair enough.
But
I mean, so far, I do want to read Moby Dick. And hey, I mean,
it's
Herman Melville. Weren't the reviews for Moby Dick when it first came out like terrible?
Oh yeah.
And it was like a year after he died, it would like top the charts.
Yeah. Yeah. It did awful. And then yeah, he died like penniless or whatever. And now it is considered the greatest American novel ever written.
Going down that Van Gogh route.
Yeah, I mean it'd be like that sometimes, don't it?
Pictures of men attacking the batters. Oh,
Back on the World Series.
7. Oh, I see. Sorry, I was going back up through the chat. 7-6 Dodgers. Oh no. They'll bring it back.
That's a bummer. They better figure it out.
They'll bring it back.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else.
I mean, yeah, that's basically.
I think that's
Okay.
kind of it. It's 11:30 ish, I think. Now is a good time to sign off.
Yeah.
We'll post in the Discord about what our next upcoming thing is. In the meantime, I can continue to try to finish bad literature. I wouldn't even call it literature. I can continue reading Iron Flame, and anybody can pop in for that. But stay tuned for.
Also, finish up Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, we are going to finish Pride and Prejudice.
I don't know how many more chapters we have, but you read more, and that's all like good to go.
Yeah, we're actually pretty close to being done. I think there's only like 10 more or something. It's it, and they're shorter than Dracula.
Yeah.
I actually think there's less chapters in Pride and Prejudice. No, there's more chapters, but I think they're shorter.
Okay.
I don't know. Either way, we will continue to finish Pride and Prejudice. So if anyone wants to listen to that audiobook, working on that. Yeah, well, we dropped it for a while, and we are picking it back up to finish it. So Pride and Prejudice, finishing Iron Flame, and other projects. So
Things to come.
things to come. Things to come.
Then, happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween, everybody. We will see you very soon.
Sleep tight.
Sleep tight.
Don't let Dracula bite.
And thank you again, once again, Melanie.
Yes, thank you, Melanie. You all have